Welcome to Igniting Change, Finding Your Fire, a weekly podcast with Meena Puri, an Ayurvedic practitioner and spiritual teacher who brings the ancient, time-tested wisdom of Ayurveda in this time of great upheaval and global ascension to inspire you to the next level of your spiritual evolution. She will discuss all topics related to your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Are you ready to be free of all suffering and soar to your heart's calling? Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Meena Puri, your host. I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner, spiritual counselor, and I just released my second book, Wake Up and Heal, 6 Steps to Emotional Freedom. So today I'm very excited to have a wonderful guest on our podcast. Her name is Sherri Richards. Sherri Richards is an owner and publisher of Good Fat Life. It's a lifestyle magazine and wellness company focused on supporting brilliant self-care so we can live our best life. We like to say that it all starts with eating good fat. I can get behind that. So please welcome Sherri Richards to the show.
Hi. Hi.
So nice. As I just read your bio, it's that's the whole sentence, what you do and stand for. It's just awesome. So tell the audience, how did you come up with this brilliant magazine?
So let me do a little shameless plug, right? For
Yes,
Good Fat Life.
It
is a real magazine. It's digital and it's in, I get this backwards.
Yeah.
So it was an evolution, right? I mean, how many of us woke up, popped out and woke up one day and said, hey, I want to have a lifestyle magazine that with good fat.
Yeah.
The backstory was a good friend of mine and colleague found that he's a chiropractor, nutritionist practitioner, and found that so many of his patients were not getting enough good fat in their day. And as you know, Meena, fat is so important, right? It's fundamental to, and I'm not talking about eating tons of it. It's, we're talking about avocados and olive oil and not French fries and, fried fish. But fat's so fundamental. And in our society, like it started in the 50s when we were raised that fat was bad for you.
Yeah.
And not to eat fat. And so we were raised with all of this non-fat food. And when you really look at the ingredients, it's sugar.
I know.
And carbs. It's high carb and high sugar. And it just is, our population has slowly gotten fatter and sicker over the years. And fundamental is our diet, as you know.
It's absolutely, it's really an example of how we like to swing in the extremes. I don't know why human beings do that, but they swing from one extreme to the other. No fat, all fat. So all fat would be your really people who are really high into ketogenic diet on a long-term basis. And that also is problematic. And I think we started the no fat diet because,
Well, I do know, I know of the story, the story behind that.
No, what's the story?
Yeah, there were, people were starting to gain weight. This is like back, I want to say in the 50s, mid 50s. And, it was after the war and the economy was good. People were doing well. Well, and they were eating more, white bread and processed foods were coming out. And then, so in an effort to kind of halt that, the powers that be looked at the calories. So a fat gram has 9 calories a carb has 4 and a protein has 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they used that logic and said, okay, let's cut fat out of our diet because
To
that's where the
reduce the
highest,
calories.
because that'll reduce the calories, because everything was about the calorie. And there was no looking at what the fat actually did, the purpose of fat in the diet. And fat also provides a high satiety value, right?
Yeah.
So when we eat fat, we're full longer.
Yeah, exactly.
So they cut the fat, the bad high calorie fat out of the diet. And what it did is so people started eating more low fat foods, but there was no satiety. So you didn't
Exactly.
stay
So they ate
full.
more. So
And
they ate more. Yeah.
so they ate more. And then of course the fats that they were eating were trans fats, so it wasn't good for you anyway. So that was kind of the genesis behind it. It was fats
It's
had 9.
again,
Yeah.
it really is evolutionary because I had a conversation with someone yesterday. This whole calorie counting, it'll do you in. It's a mental trap, and the body doesn't care about calories.
Mm,
Your body isn't counting calories, your mind is.
mm,
And the body's looking at the nutrients it needs, what it can use for fuel and what it can't identify or metabolize. It stays in the body as undigested material, which ultimately leads to toxicity in the body. And so toxicity, weight gain, illnesses, and all that good stuff. And I think the reason, I'm just trying to think of why. I think what happened with the fat, we didn't understand the difference between good fat and bad fat.
right.
And anytime when a new concept is coming out, there are always those who are going to cash in on either your confusion or your dream. And you're going to say, by the way, I have this for you, right? So when calories became the problem, they're like, we have low fat, we have zero fat, we've taken all the fat out. But then there also came those people kind of use like, oh, fat is good for you, not to understand that how to use fat, because there's a boiling point or the high heat point at which point any fat will turn into toxicity. And like you mentioned, trans fat and all the bad fats, and people didn't understand the difference between good fat and bad fat. And again, we being a culture of the extremes, we just think no fat, all the fat. But the solution is always in the hardest
So
place. It's in the middle. It's in the middle.
it is in the middle. And fat, and fat has not historically been easy to eat.
Yeah.
Right. So, and as we've become people on the go, and really gotten into this, we want to grab something quick and easy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not easy to grab an avocado,
No,
right?
that
Right.
is
It's so
true.
much easier to grab a granola bar
Mm-hmm.
or something that's an easy snack. So, there's lots of fat's had its challenges along the way. Um, but the truth is, and there are becoming a lot more, a lot more snacks available that are, high fat, good quality fat snacks. But it takes being mindful and understanding what you're doing.
Right. So again, even like the quantity, how much fat to consume, we really have to wrap our mindset around it, that, a handful of nuts, good fat, is really just a handful of nuts, right? Although the body does not count calories, the body does measure excessive nutrition.
Right.
Right. So it's not measuring it in terms of calories. Body couldn't care less, but it knows, okay, are you like overnourished, which might be the problem of our culture of abundance around food. Are you overnourished? I think malnourished is not the problem of the Western culture, at least on the average. I think it's more a problem in the underworld or the third world countries. So it just, again, to balance it out requires mindfulness.
Actually,
that we're willing to be mindful and awake all the time to what we're doing.
yeah, exactly. I like the word overnourished.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before, but that's a great word, right?
Yeah, it's too much of a good thing. I mean,
To
one apple is good for you, well, 10 may be a problem.
Yeah,
Maybe even a problem for some people. Like
or
avocado, right?
right.
Sure, you can have some people can get away with eating a whole avocado, but there are some of us who say it's like, well, I eat an avocado for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I keep gaining weight. I thought this was good fat, and I'm like, this is okay. One
Okay.
avocado, maybe half an avocado, depending on the size of it.
What? What? I'm eating
Yeah, and
avocado.
the thing is, like we really, I think it doesn't matter what food. We don't get a free out of jail card. We can't kind of look at any information blindly and extrapolate it over our entire thinking and thinking that we're going to get away with it. We're not. Life is a balancing act. Life is a you know uh, life does wonderfully if we are awake to it. If you're
Right.
not, then it can do you in, and it does us in all the time.
Yes, it does. But you said something that's so I I never, it wasn't like my big aspiration to have a magazine and a lifestyle branded company. Um, but what I found when I was working with my partners on creating a good fat snack
Mhm.
is, to your point about awareness and being awake, is that people who understood, when I'd have conversations with people who understood the value of good fat, they also cared about the thoughts they think and the
Absolutely.
environment that they surround themselves with and being mindful and being aware. And that to me was just fascinating,
Yeah.
right? It's fascinating and just my own journey. It's like we teach what we need to know.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, well, I want to know more. How do I and it was so frustrating to find information that I felt was true, was non-biased, and was just kind of the facts.
The facts.
Um,
Yeah.
that it
You know,
wasn't. Yeah, go ahead.
so much of our food choices, believe it or not, are subconscious. And that's where the media plays a big role, and they know that. They're not dummies. So, you go to a grocery shop and you are not even, you're thinking you're going to buy Whole Foods. And the next thing you know, there's this thing sitting on the end of the aisle, this magic bar with all the goodness and 0 calories and all the energies. It's a magic bar. And you just remember, oh, that's the ad that I saw.
Mm,
There goes the concept of buying Whole Foods out the window. And not to mention that there are all kinds of things slapped around in a bar that should not be together,
mhm.
that should not be combined, right? And um, because so that's a subconscious decision, and you don't even know you made it. That's exactly the point. That's why when you talk about the mind, the thoughts that you feed your mind, it's about the thoughts that others are making taking residence in your head. Those are the thoughts of the marketers and the companies who are trying to psychologically, subconsciously influence you.
Mm.
That's why we pay attention to what we watch, because no mind is strong enough to throw away the information that has already entered.
Mm. Well, I know even I read labels.
Yeah.
I really am good about reading labels, except when the packaging is so brilliant,
Oh my
right?
gosh. Yeah.
That I'll look at the package and it'll say the right words, you know, good for you fat or blah blah whatever, wholesome nutrition, something. And it's like I get a mind bypass,
You
right?
really do.
And
You
and
really do.
so
Yeah.
and normally I would pick up the package and read the labels and go, oh, okay, this it doesn't fit with my what I want to choose. But
Mhm.
there are times where
You just get
I
it.
just I just get it, and then I get home, and then I don't know. It's like
Uh,
the branding packaging magic has worn off or
it
something. The
done. Yeah,
spell is
it
broke.
done.
It's like
Exactly.
you pay for it and the spell is broken. And I get home and I go, what was I thinking? Right?
I know, and it's a challenge to bypass all that because boy, they're good at marketing. They know human psyche so well, and they know exactly the buttons to press.
Right.
And so, yeah, who can? And like I'm always floored when it says made with 100% real fruit, and I'm like, what else would it be made with?
Fake
Just
fruit?
the fact that you're saying that, I'm thinking there's no freaking real fruit in this. You are fooling me. And just I mean, and to think that they get away with that kind of verbiage on the packaging, and again, the ingredients, you really have to be a detective
Mm-hmm.
because they're code words for the ingredients, and it's hidden
There.
underneath the chemicals and whatever is in there. And then a common person who has the energy and the time and the inclination to, how many things can we understand? So they're like, well, whatever, it's only $1. And and I'm hungry, it looks
Exactly.
so good, I'm just gonna eat
Exactly.
it.
I read a article once that showed there were 200 code words
Yeah.
for sugar. Um, and it was mind-boggling. I will never forget that. So many things, because I would be deliberate about not buying things with added sugars.
Mhm.
And then I see this list and it's like, oh my gosh, it's in everything.
Yeah, I think like the rule of thumb is do everything that shines is not gold. So not to buy anything that comes in a glittery, beautiful package. That's really because you got to be suspicious of that stuff. It's not even food, it's food look-alike. It's a food
Food look.
product, it's a manufactured food, it's not nature's.
Although I did hear that Twinkies no longer have like a 10-year shelf life. I heard this on NPR this week. It's 45 days.
Oh wow, they have improved. Remember those double fried Twinkies?
Yeah.
I don't like that's when they thought fat is really good for you. I'm gonna double fry the Twinkie. It's like I know this is
How
oh
far
my
how
god.
far we've come.
How far we have come. So it's amazing to me. It's just amazing to me how the basic, real, truthful information, how easily it becomes distorted, and how easily it kind of becomes obsolete because they've taken your mind on a totally different trajectory. Packaged food and the bars and the quick and easy to grab, and everything tastes like chocolate, and right.
But I was thinking about, what you said earlier. Um, when we're little, I guess it depends on what we're fed, but when we're little, we get the idea of what a treat is,
Yeah.
right? An ice cream
Mhm.
or a chocolate chip cookie. They were rewarded, at least that's how I was raised. They were rewarded as
I know.
treats. And so as you grow up, something that can be as delicious as, a fresh pineapple or
Mhm.
um, a piece of delicious fruit or a vegetable, because it wasn't in the treat category, we always had
It
this
wasn't
mindset
attractive. Yeah.
that it's not a treat when it really is an amazing treat.
Treat. Yeah. And that's where we have to get away from thinking food is a reward or
Mm,
it's a punishment. It's neither. Food is fuel, right?
yeah.
It's like, if you do something bad, you're not going to be given good food. I mean, you don't do that.
Right, right. That's funny you say it. So we say that good fat is fuel for an inspired,
Inspired,
healthy
healthy
life,
life.
but it's fuel. It's
It's
deliberately the
fuel.
world,
Yeah.
right?
I love
chocolate.
that.
Yeah.
I think I love your message because it really, and I mean, you did this on your own and look where you started. I'm so proud of you. I remember when it was first launching and you had me write an article for the magazine and I thought, and what a brilliant idea. And now I see you have a lot of followers. And you know what I want to talk to you about? You mentioned that you have a wellness company. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, like I said, that one thing led to the next, right? So it was, I'm sorry, I can't turn my phone off.
Don't worry, don't worry. It's okay.
So it was this snack, and I've just found people wanted to know more, wanted
Mhm.
and where do you go? So we have the magazine, and then we have the podcast, and then now we're doing workshops quarterly around wellness and who knows,
Educating people, and I know
educate.
you had like a bar at one point, like a
Yeah, snack bar. So I had a partnership, and so my partner and I went separate ways, and it's good. We totally support each other, but I was more excited about the education piece,
rather than a
and that
product.
rather than the product. And
Mhm.
he is pursuing the product because that's what he loves to do.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
and it's with Good Fat Company, and they've really expanded. So now they have bagels, uh, good good fat, low carb
Mhm.
bagels, and some delicious desserts, and the bars, and um, because we need to have those choices, and choices that feel like they're a treat, so that
Yeah,
psychologically we're satisfied.
yeah, exactly. I think that you know we have entered the world of choices.
Mm,
We are in a world of food products. The grocery stores aren't going to go back to just the Whole
the
Foods
Whole Foods, no.
because it's kind of like, the cat is out of the bag. It's like tell people no more cell phones. It's not going to happen.
Right.
So you have to learn. You have to have the skills to know what a powerful tool this is or what a powerful products might be in the world and how do you navigate that world. So since we are in a world of choices, grab and go somehow has entered our vocabulary. All the goodness in one package where you don't have to think about it. But my dream is really, please think about it. You need to think about it because it's your life, it's
Mm,
your health. If you don't think about it, someone else is going to think for you. And guess what? They may not have your best interest at heart. Right.
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 Absolutely.
Right. So, but it is nice to have choices or food products where there's an integrity of the provider, transparency, where the code words for food are not used. To me, any food that has more than three ingredients, you must question,
Hmm.
right?
That's
You
a
got
good. So like so you use that as kind of like your rule of thumb?
Oh, absolutely,
So
absolutely. I do that. I just can't even because I have a problem. I have many.
yeah.
Sherry's like,
Yeah.
I've heard that before.
Hmm.
I really have a problem with um, I really have a problem with on many levels with combining so many ingredients in one product. Number one, personally, I like to know what I'm eating. Like if you give me a stew and soup of God knows what the heck is in it, I'm not going to eat it.
Okay.
I just won't eat it. Like I need to see my carrots.
Mm.
I need to see clarity. Yes, that's how I am. I'm clear. I need to see clearly what is it that I'm consuming. So I don't even make recipes that are, they're recipes, they're like page long ingredients.
Hmm.
Then you puree something and mix something and bake something, and there's so many layers to it. And I'm thinking, why in the world would I do that? Right at the first step, I'm ready to eat. I want to eat that. I'm not going to puree that. I'm not going to bake the darn thing. I'm not going to mix this thing with that and that. They should not even be mixed together. I think that it's because I know too much. I know Ayurvedically
Okay.
what happens with each food and how the food gets digested and metabolized and the post digestive effects of the food. I know that information. It's like I can't unknow it. And so I don't buy into that. And anytime when something comes in a package where there's a list is this long, you lost me after the fourth ingredient. I don't care how shiny your package is. Guess what? I'm not buying it because I don't know what the heck is it. I don't want to eat it. I don't know what the heck it is. So I think the simple rule of thumb, because we're swimming in a sea of ocean of information, a sea of ocean. I'm being redundant. We're swimming in, an ocean of information
Inflammation, yeah.
without any like a bank, a shore to grab onto. So how do we navigate that world? We do have to simplify our life. So that's where some of our, you can call it principles or my rule of thumb, just so you know what the heck to do. So, anytime there's more than 2 or 3 ingredients, anytime they say it's made with real this, it's not. How the heck do you get away with such a big lie? Blatant lie is beyond me.
Well, but also, what does real mean?
I don't understand. I know
is
real made with real fruit juice.
You go,
Made
okay.
with real ingredients. So because, again, you come to know it's a chemical warfare on food. And even the whole foods, vegetables and fruits that we pick, because the quality of the soil has been compromised to the nth degree by the chemical use.
So I heard of a product. My partner, who has a good fat company, had told me that there's now a product, and it's like an instrument, and you can point it at an apple, right?
And
it'll tell you the nutritional content in that apple. And he said he's seen it where you've got a carrot, and then you can take the nutritional content in this carrot and then look at other carrots that are grown other places and maybe need 14 or 20 carrots to equate to this one carrot, depending upon the soil that it came from, which to me is fascinating.
It's fascinating. Isn't it amazing?
So,
where we are, is this how we're supposed to be living and eating?
Yeah.
When we have to analyze and eat this way, I'm not even hungry anymore. It's become another chore. It's such a long chore to be able to go pick a darn carrot because you don't know where the heck it's going. So at some point, we can't control it. We can do our part in, for the earth-friendly, in doing cleaning of the environment that we can. At some point, we have to, we said it in our first podcast together, screw it all. I can't live this. I cannot live. I'm very conscious. I'm educated, I believe, but there's always more. But I can't live this way. It'll drive me nuts.
Right.
You have to measure the nutritional value it's kind of like spying on people. Let me see where you're trying to do me in. I have this instrument. We keep on going into a different track. Instead of going back to the basics, wouldn't it be nice if you just freaking told me the truth of where the heck food comes from? It's really not that hard. You picked it, you know where it comes from. We're going backwards.
Well, but and I don't mean it like and look at this, but the truth is that so many of our children have never seen where something came from. It's my husband was raised in Jersey City. An apple came from the store. It didn't come from the tree. And so there's so much. It goes back to educating, and
educating. We're disconnected
and our children
from the source of food. We're disconnected. Food comes from a store. And I had my son think, I'm like, honey, how do you think that chicken just flew over there into Kroger's and saying, kill me and eat me? And he's like, oh, why'd you have to do that, Mom?
I never thought of that.
Remember, it's like, no, but my chicken I did not kill. My chicken came from cougars. It's like, oh my gosh. Oh my God. I think our audience is getting a big laugh or kick out of our conversation. It just really is. I don't know if
That's
it's this time of the day where I get giddy from working all day, or it's just funny. Some of the things are just like, I,
some of the things that we do or the
you
stories
know,
we tell ourselves. So it is important.
to
You know,
connect to the source of the food and know where it comes from. And I always think that, you know, our body works the same way today that it did 100, 200,000 years ago, people. The high tech does not change how your digestion works.
mm,
Okay. It's not high tech or low tech. It just works the same way. So maybe we ought to go back and borrow some of the wisdom from our ancestors, from those wise sages, the
yeah.
Ayurvedic doctors who knew,
Who knew? Who
who
knew?
knew.
Yeah.
And so I think kind of leaning towards that, leaning towards, I hate to even say, I used to, common sense, but even that has become such a wide range.
Mm,
What's common sense? Like you can't say a word anymore because I mean, what's common sense to one person, the other person may be totally oblivious to it because they've just already entered a world of choices, options, and products. So they have no idea what the heck you're
they've
talking.
had different experiences.
They've had different
Right.
experiences. So so again, one rule of thumb is like 2 to 3 ingredients, whether it's in a package, whether you're cooking something in a pot or in your oven. Like keep it simple. Your body likes simplicity because it can recognize what it is eating. Why it's important for your body to recognize? Because it's secreting bile, enzymes to break down that food.
Mm,
If you give it a bag of confusion, guess what the body does? It
mm.
does nothing. It's like, I don't know what that is. I'm going to step aside. I don't know what that is. So I'm going to do nothing. Thanks. Next. And the food just sits there. So you know what that means? That's disease happening in the body. That's toxicity. That's illness right there. So
Yeah.
you do want your body to recognize what the heck it is that you're eating. If you don't know what you're eating, I guarantee your body doesn't either.
Hmm. Hmm. That's
Okay.
interesting. So, yeah. So, but are all of your recipes, you have recipes in your book that have more
My
than three,
recipes, yeah.
that have more than three ingredients.
It's because in some of the actually, it really is just like if I'm adding, say, more than one vegetable. To me, all the
Okay.
different vegetables is still like one
What?
ingredient.
Okay.
And what I also did when I listed the spices, I created a spice mix for people.
Okay.
So it's your digestive spice mix. Maybe I
Okay.
put many different spices, medicinal spices in there. So you take a spoonful and
Uh,
vegetables, and there you go. So you have like two things. So the process is very simple. The
okay.
process isn't puree this, mix this, whip that, layer over that, and bake it, and now add this, now double fry it. Like it's just, it's simple in the way that you can keep it very simple. The simple thing for me is, any vegetable, add a little bit of spices like salt and pepper is your common spices. People know, some people are more familiar with Italian spices like basil or oregano, or Mediterranean spices, I should
Mm,
say, or some. Yeah, I think now the Indian spices are making more of a common, like a household name, like cumin, coriander, especially
mm,
turmeric.
hmm.
Turmeric is like now the Indian elixir, the cure of all cures, right? See,
And it's pretty.
this is how we get into the high fat, the extremes, right?
Right. Right.
Now
Yeah.
I hope, everything is not about turmeric, people. Again, it's a thing. we need to understand its properties and qualities and know how to use it. So even, just a handful of spices, ginger root, adding these kind of spices to any vegetable.
I just heard that you can freeze ginger root and then take it out and then grate it frozen.
Yeah, you can do that. My sister, what she does, she makes like grates it, makes a ginger paste. So she puts it in ice cubes.
Okay.
And she takes an ice cube, and that's a good way. I'm one of those people. I'm thinking I just never do those things because I just grate a ginger. Like, what's the big deal to me? It doesn't take much time. I have a small little grater, or I just chop it, and it's like a 10-second thing. So I never go into that kind of food prep where I'm freezing things. But you can, if some people think, oh, I'm going to buy a bunch, and because we have been the idea of planning the meals have been kind of implanted in our heads because it was driven out of our such busy lives that we don't have time to grate our ginger, right? So plan ahead, and there's merit in that. And if that's what works for you, then absolutely you can freeze the ginger and use it as you need it. It's convenient.
Well, yeah, I just didn't know because I'll buy it and then I won't use it all. I'll forget that it's there. But it was just nice to know that I could
So
throw it in the
it just,
freezer and always have it.
always have it. So
Yeah.
here's one thing. And one of the things is, in Ayurveda, I learned is the energy of the food. So I remember, my teacher, when he was talking about, and he said, what would be the energy of frozen meat? And he looked at me and he goes, Meena. And what I said, dead energy. Right? And he laughed. So it's cold energy because it's been frozen. Right? So when you reuse it, so there's something happens to the food when you take it out of the freezer as opposed to when you grate it fresh. So there's a prana level. But, if we can even start using frozen ginger, I think that's the win-win. Okay.
Good to know. Okay.
You know what I mean? Just go. If freezing it works for you, go for it. And don't give it another thought. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
So what else? So I know that when you started, you have a Facebook page, right?
I do. It's Inspired Good Fat Life.
So follow that, Inspired Good Fat Life, because
Right.
you do some awesome podcasts talking about the good fat and all the health. And I think you have a lot of followers now. You started very small.
We did like with one.
With one, and that's how it starts. And it's
Right.
because, what you offer is of value. So then people will find that. So follow the Inspired Good Fat Life. And how else do you serve the public, the people with the magazine? And
that's primarily, well, actually, that's a great question. With the podcast, one of the reasons that I started the podcast is I found that there's so many people like yourself that are doing amazing things in supporting people living their best selves. But I wanted to have a way that I could help get the information out, spread the word, right? So, and also so I could learn too.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
The podcast has been a really wonderful way to do that. And then now I've started speaking at groups, like a little 5 minutes opening different meetings, association meetings, talking about the importance of good fat. And then, like I said, we're having workshops, and we just we're to have a good fat running team at a goddess run in September in Ann Arbor. So we're putting together, so it's just building ways that we can
expanding and building,
in ways we can connect in community that supports each of us.
Wonderful. So would you give our audience, what are some of the top 3 fats that people can consume, and what would be the quantity?
Well, the quantity is going to differ for
Different
everybody,
for
right?
everybody.
Right.
Right.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
avocados, olive oil, nuts, those are really the top three good fats that are
Yeah.
easy to eat. Those coconut oil, those, and you probably use that a lot in your cooking,
Yeah, I use
coconut milk.
coconut oil. I use ghee, which is clarified butter.
Right, ghee.
Yeah.
You use coconut milk
I
um,
use coconut milk
a
sometimes.
lot
I'll make
sometimes.
dessert with it, or I'll put it in, I'll make like coconut milk and cacao,
Mm,
make a latte, whatever. And
yeah,
that's pretty yummy.
that sounds delicious. So really, there's just lots of. One of my favorite things to eat is an egg. Like just a fried egg and some olive oil with avocado
Yeah, I love that.
and some beans, like
I
half a
love
cup
to
of
put it
just
on
beans.
toast. I know the ketogenic people, I was like, cut the toast out, but I like the toast. I don't eat it all the time, but I think toast, eggs, and avocado is such a good combination. And a little tomato for the tangy taste to go.
Yeah, or a little hot sauce or
Little
something.
hot sauce, it
You
is so
know,
good. So there's one thing that might as well share with the audience. You said avocado. So again, if something is good in one season, it necessarily is not that good in another season. So springtime is a time where we want to not do so much fat.
mm,
Avocado is one of them, just because the body is trying to get rid of the overconsumption of
of the
heat in
winter.
winter time. And so the fat consumption in the springtime, it actually will impede the flow. And that's where people begin to have like the cold and the sinus and allergies kind of symptoms, because that overconsumption, that fat stuff is trying to move
Mm.
out. So maybe springtime is to, reduce the quantity. Um,
That's an
so we do,
Ayurvedic.
that's an Ayurvedic.
Ayurvedic, yeah.
Yeah. So you don't, so it doesn't come in the way. So that's why we do have to pay attention to nature. What's nature doing? Whatever is nature doing is our body is doing that.
So that's a really good point. It's not. There's never one thing, is there?
I know. So it's
It's like,
really is not. So that's why, even when people say, eat these 5 magic foods, I'm like, I need to qualify that, because
is
people,
it really?
you
Yeah.
have to understand that we get into this, I don't want to think zone. So now I'm just going to hang on to this 5 things and I'm good to go. Well, we need to qualify, they eat these 5 things for how long and who, and when do you need to change that? Because, and that's why when there's like, oh, I follow this diet, I follow that diet. I'm sorry, there's no one thing. You're fooling yourself if you think that you cannot. You have to be mindful on a day-to-day basis and saying, what does my body need? And to sometimes I think I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to do like one meal because I'm sitting in front of the computer, but my body is starving. I give that up. I
Mm.
go eat, because I'm not going to get a headache just because I decided a day before I'm going to do one meal, because the time gives me something else. There's a need of the body, and that's what I have to pay attention to. So I think that it's not one thing. Wouldn't
It's
it be?
not.
It's not one thing. It really, what one thing is can you be aware what that means? Can you tune in to what your body needs? And also, can you begin to trust that you know what your body needs? Can you tune into the inner dialogue that you're continuously fighting because the mind thinks you should do it this way? Stress. When you're like, oh no, I should do this way, body is telling you something else. Your mind is already preset on something because you heard this information. Now there's a clash going on. That equals stress. Any amount of stress is not going to help you with anything. Forget weight loss or anything like that. So we're not here to suffer.
Oh, no,
We're
no.
not
And
here
you're
to
right.
suffer, okay?
And we want to make
We
it
need to
easy.
stop buying into this BS of eat this magic food, follow my diet because I lost 45 pounds. Well, first of all, you have to have a lot of weight to lose 45 pounds. That's a different story than somebody who just needs to lose 10. And you don't know what happened to those people 6 months later. Guess what? They gained
That's
it all
true.
back. And they're struggling all over again because it's something else they need to follow. And
or address that's
inside,
deeper. Yeah.
inside, and also, food is a great disguiser. Not a disguiser. Food is really a great friend with you in any time. You're bored, you're sad, you're lonely, you're pissed off, you are happy, you are whatever. Food makes a great companion. Who doesn't like to eat? It tastes so darn good. So it can disguise a lot of the emotional gaps that we experience.
That's
So when we, the root cause is, again, where are the gaps? Why are you needing so much comfort every day from a carton of ice cream is a real question. It's not the ice cream, it's not the problem. It's you are using the wrong thing to fill something that cannot be filled with ice cream as good as it tastes. So, again, so when we get into this, like, food disorders, that's all of it's not about food. It's about what's going on deeper with you. So until we do that deeper work and fulfill those psychological gaps, then food just becomes fuel. You don't need to overeat. You don't need to undereat. You're satisfied. And food is fuel. Food is medicine. Food becomes this sacred, it's really a gift of God, gift of nature. And then eating becomes very sacred because you're eating, you're not eating an apple. You're thinking about the energy of the hands, if hands were involved, who got that apple from God knows where, from a tree onto your kitchen table, right? So that deeper connection to the source of food, it really helps connect us to our own inner resources. And that's fulfilling.
excuse me.
That's fulfilling in such a big way that any amount of food just simply cannot.
It's
Food
different. It's that awareness as you
is
started.
that awareness. If
Yeah.
and it's not like it's such a mountain to climb. Start being aware today. Ask
Yeah.
the question, where did this apple come from?
Yeah. I like
Mexico,
that.
Peru, where did this apple come from? And, wonder people who picked it. How does it make it from all the way got on a ship, on a plane, on a truck? And, it just, so but you're creating a connection. And that's what we are more starved for. But we fulfill it with food. If we could fulfill it with food, we will stop. Obviously, we can't fulfill it because we keep eating.
Yeah.
Because the overeating keeps going. Obviously, it didn't do what you don't even know that you're trying to do. So I think that's where the deeper, and we can all open our eyes a little wider today, and we can all just ask that one question and wonder. Ask the unquestionable question,
Which is
what, where, why, how.
what, where did our food come from? What is this? I do find that when I'm really mindful, and thank you for reminding me that when I'm mindful and take the moment to really look at my food, to give thanks for the food, for, like you said, for the people who grew the food, harvested it, got to my table, the air, the sun, the water that grew, that supported it.
It's a gift.
It changes everything.
It changes. It's a gift.
It does. It really is.
When we relish food, we just really, oh my God, it's just so good, is fulfilling on so many levels. But when we become aware of that,
Right.
it becomes such a nourishing thing, like it's meant to be, instead of just, our mind is somewhere else, our eyes are somewhere else, just the mouth is open and the hand is going to the mouth, and we're not even connecting to what's happening in our in our gut, what's happening in our stomach, how the body's feeling. We're disconnected.
Well, yeah. Well, that's a great reminder, Mina. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
So thank you so much. Is there anything else you would like to share with our audience?
No, I think just we like to say, when you eat good fat, you create an awareness, and then we go out and create our good fat lives.
Good fat life. I love
So,
that. It just makes me think like we're just such a happy and radiant and just fulfilled life.
right,
So I love
because
that.
all that brings by living your good fat life. So
Exactly.
Mina, we'll go out and live our good fat lives,
Live
right?
our good fat life. So thank you
Right.
so much, Sherri, for being here. I love what you're doing. And thank you to all the listeners. And if you have any questions, please comment. Tell us what is the good fat that you use in your life, and tell us what, one or two things that you got out of this conversation. And we love to hear from you. Until we see you next week, have yourself a lovely afternoon.
Oh, thank you so much, Mina.
Thank you, Sherri.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Igniting Change, Finding Your Fire. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and we look forward to being with you next week.